everybody. Randy Patterson here with Boomerocity, and we have an old friend of ours on here this time around. He is the great Andy Timmons. You'll know him from his days with Danger Danger back in the 80s. He's also was the late, great Olivia Newton-John's music director and guitarist. He's played great work on his solo stuff, which we'll be talking about in this episode, as well as doing a lot of guitar work for a lot of other people. He's highly regarded among his peers with great names like, gosh, Steve Lukather, Steve Vai, Josh Smith from Joe Bonamassa's band. A lot of great guitarists think very highly of Andy, and we're always honored when he takes the time to speak with us here. And we talked to him this time around about his new great album called Recovery. You're absolutely going to love this album, especially if you're a longtime fan of Andy's. It's great work from the first groove of the record to the last, to use old person's jargon here. But we talk a lot about that album. We talk about some other stuff going on, just good friendly chat between two friends. And I think you'll enjoy just eavesdropping in on it. He'll mention something about us used to be neighbors, and I want to explain that just for those of you who don't already know. Andy lives in McKinney, Texas, and I used to live in McKinney, Texas. Not long after I started Boomerocity, I was there for, 3 or 4 years, and then I relocated to East Tennessee. So we lived probably as a crow flies 2 or 3 blocks from each other. It took a little bit longer to actually get to each other, but he went to a concert or two with me. I think it was to go see Boston. We went backstage and hung out there and run into him at the Dallas International Guitar Show and things like that. Great guy. You'll never meet a more wonderful guy. But we have a lot of fun talking, and we actually just ran out of time talking about all sorts of stuff. So here for your listening pleasure, which I hope you'll hit like and you'll hit subscribe. Neither of them are going to cost you anything, but for your listening pleasure, here is yet another interview I have with our good friend Andy Timmons. Until next time, this is Randy Patterson with Boomerocity. Take care. Andrew, there you are.
Buongiorno, Randall. Hold on. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Doing all right. Just getting settled here, getting my ducks in a row.
Well,
hello, ducks.
Hello, ducks.
I like your background there. Look at that.
Yeah. Well, I hope you didn't notice the album covers missing or anything. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say you took all my records, man.
Took all your records.
Took all my records.
So how you been, man? It's been a few months. We haven't talked since the Redcoats chat.
Okay, that's right. It's been what? I don't know, a minute ago, 6 months or so. I can't.
Yeah, something like that.
I can't keep it all straight.
I can't either.
Yeah.
How did that record do?
Those are all just kind of fun projects along the way to keep us busy, and the response was amazing. You know, we just need to find time to do some shows together. We've done actually one show in between 2 records. We've done one show together, which is the only time we've played live. All these records that we've done, you know, Matt and Greg get together, and sometimes with the keyboard player to do the basic tracks, and then send it to Medina and I here in Texas, so we finish the tracks. Mm-hmm. So it was a blast to actually play those songs from Redcoats 1 live when that record came out. So we need to find some time, and hopefully we will, man. It's such a great collection of players, and Matt's vision musically is it's fun for all of us because we can go in any direction. You know, he's got his pop hat on all the time, but then there's this massive other library to draw from of all the you know, different musics that we all love and have studied and played with all kinds of different artists. So it's just kind of a band of why not? It's just like, let's go have some fun, you know?
Yeah. Well, Lukather does the same thing with the lobotomies or something like that.
Sure, you had Los Lobotomies back. It was more of a 90s, early 2000s group. But yeah, he's busy with his Toto thing, his solo records, and of course getting to hang with the boss himself, Ringo. Peace and love. Yeah. I mean, this was not a bad life to have, you know. It's just, and that's
for sure.
Yeah, I think as any kind of working and I don't know, a musician with, you know, artistic drive, you know, just to be in as many different situations as you can, not just your own, you know, centric type of thing, which, my recovery record very much is. But then to put yourself in other situations that bring other aspects of your playing out that you also enjoy. And it's nice that it's not necessarily all about you. Like watching Steve Vai on tour with the Beat project, the Adrian
Hmm.
Belew, Tony Levin led King
Yeah.
Crimson, 40th anniversary tribute to that material was amazing to see Steve in a band, where he wasn't,
Yeah.
it wasn't the Steve Vai show. He was very much himself, but in the context of what it took to make that body of work, work. and,
Yeah.
and anytime I talked to him leading up or during, I got to see that. I went and saw that show twice, once in Dallas and once in Oklahoma City. And I wasn't necessarily that aware of all that 80s, 70s and 80s King Crimson. It wasn't on my radar for whatever reason. But boy, did I love it to see it presented like that and to see the joy of Adrian Belew getting to play this music, and Tony sounding so great. And of course, and then the drummer, from Tool,
Yeah.
Mr. Carey did an incredible job. Anyway, but again, just kind of touching on the point of like, those of us that have a dedicated solo career, but really do enjoy all these other things that we can get ourselves involved in to kind of scratch that particular itch and that thing that we love. For me,
Yeah.
from Simon Phillips to Olivia Newton-John couldn't be a better bookend to look at.
Yeah.
You know, very different than what I do on my own, but I love and they're just as challenging. Each of the different projects. So along the way, those kind of things, and like the Redcoats, there's things in there that Matt wrote that probably aren't playable on the guitar, but I had to try because he's writing it on a keyboard.
Yeah.
There was some challenges, but I love a challenge. Why not?
Well, Steve told me when I interviewed him last year,
Hmm.
he was prepping for the Beat tour, and he was
Oh yeah,
talking about how that really had to make him stretch,
yeah,
and as a
yeah.
musician, and he
Sure,
didn't appreciate how difficult the work was until
right.
he got into it, and
That's often
did
the
you
case.
did
Hmm.
you see his work on the he was a guest guitarist on a new Chicago concert video commemorating the 50th year of this
Yeah,
CTA album.
I guess I didn't.
And I mean, he does 25 or 64. Oh
Interesting.
gosh.
Wow.
Whoa.
Okay.
And
I'll
he
have to
does
check.
another one too, but I mean, he just
I'll have to check
blew
that
it
out.
off the scales. Yeah.
Well, I
But
would highly recommend anybody that hasn't seen CTA watch Terry Cat. All respect to Steve.
yeah.
Go watch that original band because I don't think people remember because of the '80s and because of the producer that got involved and ripped the band apart. They made hit records with him,
David Foster.
David Foster, which great producer, great writer, but it was what it was. It helped the band survive, but it wasn't the band anymore. But boy, you go back to
Right.
there's early recordings of them in Tanglewood, New Jersey in 1970, and I saw another one from somewhere in Europe in 69 or 70. It's the epitome of what a great band really is. And
Yeah.
and Terry Kath was very much the heartbeat in the center of that. So hearing him sing and playing like he played, man, it's really great. Very kind of an unsung hero. There's also a great documentary on Terry Kath called Searching for Terry Kath that his daughter
Oh, I
got.
haven't seen that. I
It's
need to look
really
at that.
it's really great. If you're a fan of the music, especially the early stuff, seek that out. I think I watched it on YouTube. Maybe
Okay, I'll
it's
check it
available
out.
there
Yeah.
or but anyway, and I'm
Yeah.
sure Steve tore the bejesus out of it. But it's
He did. He did.
always good to go back to the source, Big
That's
fan of
right.
Terry. Yeah.
Did one more thing before we get on to, or two more things before we get on the album.
Yeah.
How's your son's band doing? I was
They're
curious
doing
about that.
great. So he was in two bands for a while, and as things go, one band is dissolved. But his main and original focus, Disdain, Distain, is doing great. They're about to record their second record. They put out an EP, produced and engineered by Sterling Winfield. It's been over a year now. Who was my buddy that worked with the Pantera guys. So Alex's
Hmm.
chosen path is very much heavy kind of death metal kind of stuff, slam and
Yeah.
sludge, and the different genres they're in. But he's really good at what he does, and they're having a blast doing it. They're doing a bunch of shows. So thanks for asking, and yeah, check him out for those that are not a faint of heart. Check out
Yeah.
Disdain on socials. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think I've interviewed anybody quite that heavy, but I'm game for something new. So if
Hey,
you would like to interview, let's do it.
you never know. Why not? Yeah,
That's right.
it's all beautiful. It's his outlet, and I'm glad he didn't choose to go down whatever my particular path is. He has to find his own thing. And
That's
that's why
right.
we never really forced him down any road as a kid growing up. We just wanted him to find what his passion was, and quite fortunately, for this household, he did eventually get into guitar. It wasn't until the age of 16. And one day he comes to me, Dad, I think I want to play guitar. I said, well, you're in a good house. I've got a few laying
It,
around, you pick one up.
it,
No, I always had I found this old Fender Bronco in a pawn shop in South Dakota when I was on the road with Olivia, and I picked it up. And so from when he was born, I had that guitar in his room just in case, because it's a
just in case.
smaller scale. And he would just pick it up, and I'd look at him and go, that guy's never going to be a guitar player. But throughout that, he exhibited a really great sense of time. When I had an old record player in his room also, he would put on old, records that I had in there, and he was keeping time with straws on boxes. I said, well, he does have a good sense of time. So, but once he picked it up, man, he never looked back, and his sense of time is incredible on the guitar, and his picking technique is way beyond mine ever will be. It's incredible how quickly
Wow.
he adapted and started picking stuff up on his own. It's amazing.
So I'm curious that, like with women, the daughters and the mothers are fighting over, the mom
Yeah.
goes, hey, did you steal my
Right.
blouse again? Or something? So with you and your son, is it's like, did you take my Ibanez Blackie again? Or,
Oh no, no, he's got that old. He loves that old black with the purple pickups. That's a solid night. He's a big fan of that late '80s, early '90s, good, cool looking guitar. So yeah, there's been a time or two. Now he very politely asks, but occasionally there's a cable or a pedal. He says, "I hope you don't mind, Dad." Well, of course. But again, I just love that he's in a house where he's got these things to be able to, clearly I'm a bit of a pack rat, and there's a few things. The thing he was most excited about was when he realized I had one of the very, very, very first EVH 5150 heads that Peavey put out in the early '90s,
Oh,
which are
wow.
now
Yeah.
for the death metal scene, they're like the holy grail amp, which I had no idea about. And he
Yeah.
starts, he's got a 6505, which is a later Peavey head. He says, "Yeah, Dad, I'm really looking for one of these 5150s." I said, go check the closet upstairs. I'm pretty sure I got one in there. He lit up like it was Christmas, and it is a phenomenal head, but it blows up real easy. It overheats.
Yeah.
Long story short, but it's in his room. He's got it in there, but he doesn't turn it on that much, just out of respect.
Out of his there, you've raised him right, Andy.
Well,
So,
I hope so. I hope so. But anyway, yes, sir.
well, tell me about this great album. Man, I
Oh
love
man,
it. Every
thank you,
time
man.
I hear one of your new pieces of work, I'm thinking Andy's outdid himself again. So, and you did it here. So, tell
Well,
me the story behind it.
I appreciate that very much. I mean, with any work that any artist does, I mean, if I can consider myself an artist, which I guess I should,
Hmm.
um, it's always in the hopes that you're continuing to evolve, that you're continuing to learn, and that's certainly the case when it comes to my path with writing and with playing guitar. I do, I make sure I'm playing every day. I work on it, quite seriously, but because I
Hmm.
love it, and I love, when I know that I'm honoring that, whatever that gift I have and whatever everybody's gift, whatever they have, if they're honoring that every day, regardless of if you're noticing the improvement or not, but it's there. And even if it's just maintaining a baseline of current abilities, it's important to put that work in and to honor that. So I always make sure, and I did it today. There's a bazillion things going on. I leave for New York in the morning for another recording project. I just got back from Italy. Life around me is literally exploding in so many personal ways I couldn't even begin to describe. But the point is, I made that hour available to myself to just sit and play. And I played, what did I play? I played Giant Steps, Autumn Leaves, and All the Things You Are for an hour. And just to play. And it helps center me. It helps feel like, okay, I've honored a bit of that. And then whatever happens the rest of the day, a lot of it may be playing, a lot of it may just be busy work with life, but at
Hmm.
least I know I've put a bit of that work in. And
Right.
I started doing that again for the first time in years, about 10 years ago, and have noticed, that gradual improvement. And at least when I play, I'm not as disappointed as I could be in myself at other times in my career,
Hmm.
where I was
Hmm.
always playing, but when you're working towards something, or you're, trying new things and pushing yourself is always a great thing. So that's to do with where we are with this record now. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, and hopefully it's, at the bottom line, I want there to be good songs. I'm just a pop guy in my foundation from all the '60s Beatles and all the pop stuff I still love to this day. But as you broaden your horizons with jazz and blues and classical, and for me especially Chopin over the last few years, it can't help but broaden your palette of what you have available to be able to express. So each song on the Recovery record is very much, very personal kind of thing. Most art, or most great art, I think, really starts as a selfish act for that particular artist. I think they're trying to imbue in the music all their experiences, what's going on in life, in order to reflect maybe what other people are going through. Um, but for it to be what I it's what I wanted to hear. If a writer's writing a song, I truly believe they're just trying to write the song that they want to hear, that somehow measures up to all the things that they've loved throughout their memorable life. It's the same with an improvisation. If somebody's playing a solo, so to speak, they're trying to play the greatest solo they can play. They're trying to live up to the heroes of not only whatever tones it might be, or whatever melodic instincts might be, or whatever virtuosic instincts might be, all adding up to, man, what is it I'd like to hear in this moment? And it's truly a self pleasurable. That's a horrible way to put it, but you know what I'm saying. It's a very self. You know what I mean? It really is meant to kind of hit, or at least reach for that bar that we set for ourselves, and which is usually. Some of it's personally motivated, some of it's motivated by all the shoulders that we stand on of all the great composers and players. The physical, I will tell you a quick story of the actual physical ground zero for this record was a car wreck with Josh Smith on the way to barbecue in Fort Worth. That's in a nutshell what happened. But so we had done so this record is co-produced with Josh Smith, and Josh produced the Electric Truth record after we formed a friendship. He invited me to a studio. The idea was that he would use his band, and I would just come out as the artist, so to speak. And it was nice. It was exactly the moment we were talking about earlier, where you put yourself in a situation outside of what you normally do for the betterment of yourself, and hopefully bring out some different flavors of the music that you might write. So we got together, we collaborated on Electric Truth. It was a lot of fun, and people really responded to it. But I was kind of stepping in his world a little bit. I wrote some songs on a Telecaster, which he's known to play. And so it's a bit more bluesy and R&B than I would normally do, but that's the beauty of it. Well, fast forward, he was coming through town last year, or maybe about a year and a half ago, with Joe Bonamassa, because he plays with Joe.
Right. I saw him Friday night.
Oh, you did? Oh,
yeah,
nice.
I didn't talk to him, but I saw him and Joe in Cherokee, North Carolina.
Oh, so, right on.
Great show as always.
Great show. Joe's just one of the greats out there, and Josh is is an able foil, and is a great band leader and co-producer with Joe. They do a lot of work together. So they were coming to town, and he told me about this barbecue place called I think it's called Lucky's, and it's in Fort Worth. So Josh is a foodie, and was all about, he'd been watching these documentaries on best barbecue places in America, and this one #1 in Texas Monthly, but it's only open 2 days a week, and you got to get there at like 10 in the morning or earlier to line up to get, if you want some food that day, and then it sells out and that's it. So he said, I'm going to take an Uber at 7:30. I'm going to go. It's a Sunday morning. I'm going to sit in line. I said, dude, don't take an Uber. I'll come pick you up. I'm in McKinney, whatever. I'll pick you up. We'll drive out. So that's what happens. I might have picked him up at like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And we're just cruising along. Nobody's on the highway. I think it might have been on 360 and, getting to 20 or whatever, heading towards Fort Worth. Yeah. I'm in the far right lane. I see somebody 2 lanes over coming in my rearview mirror. He decides he needs to exit, pulls in front of me, and I try to miss him. I clip his rear end, and we both end up incapacitated on the side road. My first thought was like, gee, Josh isn't going to get his barbecue. I said, look, dude, we're fine. Airbags didn't go off. I got a crunched front end and a flat tire, but whatever. Let's get you an Uber. Go get the barbecue. I'm not going to be the guy in the way of getting. Well, by the time
you don't want Joe being ticked off at you either if he was hurt, right?
Exactly. I didn't even think about that, but I thank God we're okay. I wasn't. Yeah, we're fine. So I call the police. They come, and the guy's undocumented, uninsured, whatever. We're dealing with that. The record service is coming. Thank you. And my wife is coming to pick me up. I said, "Yeah, come on, man. Just go we'll get you an Uber." No, no, I'm gonna hang with you. I'll hang with you. The wife shows up. We finish with the police. My car's on a record to the repair place. Caliber Collision here in McKinney. They did a fine job. Um, but my wife gets there and said, "Well, what are we gonna do? Let's go get barbecue." So we did. We drove the rest of the way, got the barbecue, and it was great. But it was while we were waiting for the cop car, and I was just like, "Man, what do you think about doing? What do you think about doing another record?" Now's a good time for a chat. He says, "Yeah, man, I think I got a couple of days in January, because in between um, Joe's schedule with touring and Josh doing a little bit of his own touring, and they're producing a bunch of records for a lot of blues
Mm-hmm.
rock guys, from Eric Gales
Mm-hmm.
to Larry McCrae, some amazing records. They're doing a great service for all these artists and the genre.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we squeezed it in. Had a couple of days before NAMM, and same band: Lamar Carter on drums, Travis Carlton on bass, Darren Johnson on keyboards, and we did all the tracks in 2 days. Of course, save for the guitars. I finished the guitars back here at my studio because I'd like to take a bit more time. So it's nice when you get lucky on the date on the floor, and that's great. If I don't get lucky, I'll get it right. So I like taking time with tones and stuff. But for those guys to get those 11 songs done in those 2 days is kind of miraculous. And they did such a great job. They all have such great instincts and are so tasteful in what they do and understanding what the emotion that I'm trying to get into the tunes. And I had things pretty well demoed out too. They had a good idea, at least, of the overall shape and
Mm-hmm.
sound and feel. But then that's Josh's brilliance, is that he's really great with sense of arrangement. Like
Mm-hmm.
when a section needs something, when a song needs something, and he really quick with it. So in immediate time, we're coming up with these decisions, and some of them were like, I'm not sure about that, but I love now. But that's again part and parcel to why it's great to work with other people. Now I'm in the middle of working on a new record with Mike Dane and the Andy Timmons band, and that's a great situation too. We work very differently, and sometimes take a little longer. But the result is always better than if I'm sitting by myself. I can do it. I can make plenty of records sitting in my room all by myself. But I recognize that it's always, many times better when you're collaborating with other people that you respect, to try to
Mm-hmm.
get things to a higher level that you wouldn't have achieved on your own.
Was there any surprises on this album?
Uh, I'm gonna say, as far as response goes, I love that a lot of people are responding to Arizona Sunset, the last song on the record. It's a very simple, yeah. I don't know if you can hear that or not. Can you
I
hear that all
can.
right?
Yep.
Pretty simple melody, but once again, it's a shining example of the simpler the better a lot of times. And people do tend to respond a special way to the ballads that I write, and I do too. They're my favorite things. But this record has got a lot, and there was another song, a song called "Between Brothers," track 4 on the record, which is pretty overtly rock, and I haven't really done that type of rock song in a while, and I was a little skittish about it going on the record, and was very close to not putting it on the record. I just wasn't sure if it was right. And of course, it's got a bit of shreddy guitar in it, and I thought, well, a bit of ear ecstasy style stuff. And of course,
Mm-hmm.
now that's a favorite to some people as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's, for people that have followed me from Danger Danger to the early ear ecstasy days to current times, there's definitely, it's a lot of a a lot of what I have to offer as far as just the variety of stuff. But hopefully the songs are getting better and better. That's my goal. Not that I'm not proud of stuff I've done earlier, but you're always like, Paul would love to write another Yesterday. It's like, not that
Wouldn't we
I'm,
all?
well, that's the thing. That's the thing. But you can't, because that's such a moment in time, and you're only that person once. Um, but again, that's what I enjoy, is not feeling like I have to repeat anything. And that's the beauty of Jeff Beck, where he kept refusing to go backwards, and
Mm-hmm.
just wanting to continue to push the envelope. But of course, you bring yourself with you. You are you no matter what you try to do. Hence a song like Between Brothers. I still love how I played in 1991. It's all
Mm-hmm.
valid. But surrounding it is a lot of other growth and a lot of other types of ways of getting your emotions out. So in that regard, I'm real proud of the record as a body of work, you know.
You mentioned the Beatles a couple times, or Paul and the Beatles. Just curious, what are there any cool stories surrounding the single you did last year with the lost or rare uh,
Oh,
Lennon song?
I'm in Love track. Yes,
Yeah,
thank you for
yeah.
bringing that up. Well, it's a song that I've always thought should have been a Beatle track. When Lennon's piano demo leaked, I believe it was the Lost Lennon tapes that was surfaced on some syndicated radio show in the maybe in the 90s. And so
Hmm.
bootleg recording started to, when we were buying bootleg CDs in all the shops in Stockholm or whatever shops you could find all over the world. This I'm in Love 1963 John Lennon demo came in this, and I probably had everything else on the CD, but I don't recognize that. I need to buy this. Hence, hundreds, if not thousands, of CDs in my attic. I heard this track, and it was a song that they gave to a band called The Foremost. And I'd heard that song. I was like, this is not so great. When you hear Lennon's demo, you went, oh my God, this song's amazing. They totally missed the point. And boy, I would like to do a version of that someday. And then all these years later, 2024, two other buddies of mine, well, actually, a friend of mine named Craig Hopkins, who's a noted author in the Stevie Ray Vaughan world. He
Hmm.
wrote a couple of books called Day After Day, Night After Night, and a big Beatles fan. And I saw him at a Ringo show. He says, hey, I want to do one last Beatles trip to the UK. I'm going to go to London. I'm going to go to Liverpool. Would you like to go? And I'd never done a sightseeing trip. I've been to those places. I hadn't been to Liverpool, strangely enough, but I'd been to London. I stood outside Abbey Road. I actually got to go inside Abbey Road for a master class that some writers were doing. Anyway, long story short, within the trip of going over to do all the sightseeing, we figured out, well, we can get a session at Abbey Road. It's like it's a studio for hire, just like any other studio.
Right.
They make you jump through some hoops, and it's not easy, and it's not inexpensive. Another friend of us joined, Dennis Poggenberg, and so the three of us went, three Beatle buddies, the Threedles, we called ourselves, and not original, but there we are. And got to have, we booked a 10-hour session in Abbey Road, and each guy, Craig plays a bit of guitar and piano, sang and played some songs, and got Dennis involved on some things. But then I had the rest of the day, and they said, Andy, take it, do what you want to do. So I'd hired a kit of drums, a bass, made sure. The engineer asked me, what sounds are you going for? And I said, well, think Beatles 1964. So he brought out all the original mics from that era, all the original
Mhm.
Neumanns, all the original
That's amazing.
mics they would have used on the drums. And so and Dan Steinhardt from the Pedal Show, my dear buddy, brought his 1961 Vox AC30 top boost. I brought my 65 Strat. So I tried to, have a go at what I thought maybe they would have done with it. And the guitar sound I was going for was more like Nowhere Man. I wanted to get that Nowhere Man bright, jangly
Yeah.
solo sound, which was two Strats into a Vox AC30 top boost. And it turned out the way it did. I'm really proud of it. And Matt Bissonette did all the background vocals, but I played everything else. I played drums, bass, guitars, did the singing. Matt did the very great harmonies that he's capable of, as he's a fellow Beatlemaniac. He saw the Beatles. He is one up to me for life by having seen the Beatles with his brother in '66 in
Wow.
Michigan, I believe. Yeah, they went when
And
they were.
now his brother works for one. Yeah.
There
So
you go. He did all well. He played with Ringo on some session stuff. He played on Ringo's, not his new country record, but his last EP. Matt Bissonette
wow.
got to play with Ringo. So they're both Beatle accredited.
Yeah, both of those guys have had such a charmed life in their career, man. For
Well,
Matt to be able to do the Elton John final tour and all that.
yeah.
And
Well, he did.
I got to hang with Matt a little bit. I don't know if I told you
Oh,
this last time we talked.
yeah.
He was after the Elton tour. The REO Speedwagon had
Oh, yeah.
him asked him to fill in since their
Right.
bassist was out, and turned out to be their last tour as a band.
Well,
But
yeah. I heard all about it. But
yeah,
it's always unfortunate when there's drama, but there's always drama.
yeah.
There's no
But
band. There's zero bands without it. Oh man.
Springfield opened for him, and so after the
Oh,
show, I got to
yeah.
hang with Matt and some of the guys from Springfield's band, and
Great.
Matt's just I
Yeah.
put you. I can see why you two get along so well because you both are such kind, gentle spirits, but man,
thank
you're
you.
killer at what you do. So
And he played with he toured with Springfield for a long time too. So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
yeah, he's
Well, and didn't he work with Steve Vai as well? Didn't he?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
he and yeah, they
He
played
did
with
because I asked him. I told Matt I was going to
yeah.
talk to Steve, and he goes, tell him Honeycoo
Yeah,
said hello." And when I
all
did
right.
that, Steve said, "You talked to Matt?"
Exactly. Well, they worked with Satriani too. They were on that
That's right. Yeah.
Extremist record, which may be Joe's best sounding record. You know, Andy Johns
Hmm.
and the Bissonnettes and Joe, and it just slams. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. So what song on the album? If somebody was going to be introduced to Andy Timmons for the first time, and it had to be a song off of this record, which would you point to, saying, "Hey, if you like this, you're probably going to love the rest of the record"?
Well, the title track "Recovery" is one I would point to, or "Where Did You Go," which is right after that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
that's got a bit of the vibier stuff and has a good, uplifting chorus. But both of the songs that have a good, sense of there's a certain amount of melancholy, embedded in a lot of these songs. But there's also optimism, And this is something that was pointed out to me. It's something I wasn't that consciously aware of until I've been doing these series of interviews, and somebody pointed that out, and I recognized it immediately. I said, "You're absolutely right," and it just shows you that that's the range of what I consider music. It's very much for my own personal recovery, and I know it's that for a lot of other people. It's an act of healing. The word recovery obviously brings to mind substance, and I've had my experiences there as well as so many around me, and I'm sure people watching. But overall, music's always just been a very cathartic and healing part of my life, and so each of these songs tends to have a bit of that, why I'm here and where I hope I'm going. It's like
Yeah.
it's yeah. And sadly, where I'm going is I've got another interview. These are all 30
Yep.
minutes today.
I know. I know. I
I
got to
wish
let you go, man.
I wish I could go for hours, but yeah, our lovely and talented Steve Karras has me busy. But always great to hang with you, Randy, and I appreciate you, my former neighbor and good pal.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I can catch you on the road sometime this year with
Yeah,
whoever you're going to be running around with. And
there's no telling. Right now, we're packing up we head for the Southeast Asia tour next week. Which is going to take us to Japan and China and Taiwan and Thailand. But yeah, people are asking about the States, so we need to get busy and get something going there too.
well, especially if you're going to, I mean, if you don't hit Knoxville, which is my backyard, but if
Oh
you're going
shoot.
to be like Nashville or Atlanta or Chattanooga, I can hit those places. So
Okay, well
just,
I'll hook up with Andy Wood. He's in Knoxville, so I need to hook up
oh
with
yeah,
Andy.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah. And
he's my
just
bro.
give me some heads up because I'm a caregiver for my dad these days, and
Oh,
so I
okay,
need
good on
some
you.
planning time to be able to
Understand.
arrange coverage and all that. So, hey
You're being
man,
a
good
good
luck on the
son.
rest of the interviews. I love
Thank
the
you, buddy.
album.
Thank you,
Next time we
Randy.
talk, we'll see how all this went. Okay.
I appreciate you so much, buddy.
All right. Take care, my friend.
Thanks, man. You too. Bye.
Bye bye.